All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of ThreatGEN's Let's Play. We've got a banger for you today. In today's episode, I will be stepping into the ThreatGEN Red versus Blue cybersecurity simulation platform, piloting the blue team, aka the CISO, the SOC team. But today's flavor, I will be vigilantly and explicitly adhering to the CMMC 2.0 level 1 security standard. Now, if you're not familiar with this, essentially what it is the federal government, Department of Defense, is requiring members of the defense industrial base to implement certain levels of security before you're allowed or authorized to do business with the federal government. This is a massive shift in the way that the federal government is expecting businesses in supply chain really to be secure. Now, level 1 is the lowest level. It's your foundational level. And I will be going into all of this today as I'm stepping through the simulator. And essentially what you're going to get out of this episode is A, you're going to learn what CMMC is and what the value is for the market. And B, you're going to see in practice, objectively, what is the efficacy level of this level 1? Essentially, if you implemented level 1 at your business, would you actually be secure any more than if you had just randomly picked a bunch of controls and put them in place? We're going to find out. We're going to be joined with none other than lead dev CEO or former lead dev CEO of ThreatGEN, industrial control system expert and all-around great cybersecurity community member, Clint Dungeon. He'll be answering your questions in chat as I play along. So I hope you join us today. Let's get into it. How are you, man? Clint,
It's
you
a
doing
Wednesday.
all right today, Clint?
Yeah, it's hump day, man. It's hump day, as every stream we do on Wednesday. So it's always hit or miss on how I am. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows me by now. I'm grumpy.
Love it. Well, you know what? I work with Clint and for Clint, so I can attest that he is a grumpy bear, but he's a wonderful person. All right, guys, let's get into it. Let's have some fun today. Again, we will not be putting the chat in the overlay because we want everybody to be able to see the full stream and the full screen. But know this, that Clint is watching chat, I am watching chat, and we are very interested in
audio as well. Game audio. There you go.
We'll go with the classic ThreatGEN Red versus Blue sound effects today, okay? Chat, let us know if the audio is okay.
Hey, I spent a lot of time tracking down and creating game audio. I'm glad you're finally using it.
Yeah, absolutely. So hold on. I'm going to play as a blue team. I want to do the pipeline company today. And let's see what happens. So
turn the effects down too.
Yeah, okay, hold on. Can I turn the effects down after I've started?
No. It's on the roadmap. It's on the roadmap.
All right, here, let me change the audio settings. And allow me, before I start the game, actually, let's take a second and do this really quickly, okay? So, so we're all talking about the same thing here. This is CMMC level 2.0, okay, guys? And as I mentioned on the intro, there's all sorts of different security standards associated with this. What you really need to know is this is mapping to NIST 853 controls. Now, level 2 of CMMC is essentially the equivalent of 800-171. So if you want to work in GRC as an auditor, compliance, help an organization implement CMMC. So if you're a manufacturing company making product for the Department of Defense, whether it's a ball bearing for a tank or it is some type of radar system, whatever it is, you will be required to be CMMC compliant. So this is great for people to learn about because there's actually going to be a huge market for employment opportunities. Now, there's 3 levels, as I mentioned. CMMC level 1 is your foundational level. And you can see right here, I've gone ahead and gone through CMMC and extracted all of the controls. Now there are how many controls? There's only 17 controls, guys, which is kind of gross. And like I said, I predict that this framework will not stand up. These are based in control families. So we've got our access controls, which are our ACs. We've got identity and access management, limited physical access, media disposal, physical access, managed access, boundary protection. Okay. So I'm just, as far as my opening moves go, I'm going to consider boundary protection, gateway firewall. So we definitely get access to that. And then do we see policy and procedure? We see malicious code protection, system and file scanning. So that would be vulnerability assessment, authentication. Okay, I do not see. So AC1. Okay, so I do not see policies and procedures, but that's okay. It's definitely implied in this case. So let's get into it now that I've kind of broken down how we'll be approaching CMMC level 1.
So
hopefully that was clear as mud.
The CMMC, correct me if I'm wrong, the CMMC came from the cybersecurity framework, which references heavily 853, NIST 853.
No, that's not exactly right.
Or is the CMMC is it different than the CSF?
Yeah, the CMMC is much different than the NIST CSF. So the NIST CSF is actually the framework that kind of maps to the way that an information security program would implement security. CMMC, and by extension 800-171, is almost mapped to the way that FISMA was, where like it's basically, here's the set of controls, you either implement them and you're compliant or you don't implement them. And there's very little context for like actual threat modeling, risk value, or risk reduction value, right? So like a small business has to implement the same thing that like Halliburton has to implement. And that's part of the critique against something like that, where it's just prescriptive of like implement these controls and it's a one-fits-all solution. That's really,
because the CSF was a maturity model as well. So I guess the CMMC and the CSF are really competing maturity models.
Yeah, you could argue that they're both definitely different approaches. I would not say the CMMC is set up to be a framework. I know we're going to be doing it today as a test scenario, but it's really it's more like just a compliance standard. Like here is the bare minimum.
Okay. So because I'm very familiar with NIST and CSF. I'm less familiar with the CMMC, so I'm new here too.
Yeah, I mean, there is a mapping of CSF to NIST 853, so you could look at it and see where there is overlap. But this level 1 foundational level is pretty limited. So as I mentioned before, the gateway firewall is the system boundary protection. So we're going to go ahead and put that in. We have a pretty good looking site. Let's just say that we're a pipeline company and we provide fuel to an Air Force base, right? So that's why we'd be wanting to comply with CMMC at all in its current state. Now, I want to do either install video surveillance and SIM. I'm going to give me a second to look back here at the CMMC.
Is there an order of precedence in the CMMC?
There is not. The CMMC, it's basically, here is all the controls. And this is another key difference between CMMC and NIST CSF. There is no really maturity. It's just do it or don't do it.
Right. A more advanced version of the CIS almost.
Yes, exactly. That's a great way to put it. Although CIS even makes an effort to go with a maturity level, because CIS actually has 3 tiers of implementation. So CIS is even better than CMMC. Okay, so there is limiting physical access control in CMMC. So we're going to go ahead and use that one with video surveillance. And then there is a malicious code protection and system file scanning, malicious code protection, flaw remediation. See, when I see malicious code protection, it makes me think of like anti-malware, less about EDR. But let's put a SIM in place anyways, because that's kind of like EDR is essentially the modern day anti-malware solution. So yeah, Clint, as you're talking or as you're engaging with chat, I'm going to actually be highlighting inside the CSF the things that we have implemented so we can keep track of how we're doing. So let me do this.
So some people are saying the music is making it hard to hear you. I'm not experiencing that. The music sounds. You might want to turn it down. You can't really now that you're in the game.
Well, I can mute it. I can mute it if you want to play your music, Clint. You know that.
There's more than one person. Okay, yeah, I'll throw some music on.
All right, I turned the music down on the game itself, so we should be good there. Clint's gonna put some music in.
Yeah, if I can figure this out.
All right, let me see. Where's my boundary? External connections verify, control public access, media disposal, flaw remediation.
Really yeah, some people say it sounds fine. Some people say it's too loud. That's right.
That's okay.
Now you're going to have to listen to country redneck music, people. It's your own fault.
That's
you brought this upon yourselves.
External connections verify and control. I think I'll give that a shot. Limit information systems access to type authorized permission to execute. All right. All right. So we also have escort visitors, physical access logs. There's a lot of focus on physical access. Let's do this. All right. No fill. Okay. So let me go back to the game here. You'll have to excuse me, guys. I'm operating a couple different screens. Threat monitoring enabled and perimeter firewall. Okay, so that's good. So we've got our firewall here, which is nice. We got 2 minutes and 18 seconds. I'm going back to the NIST, CMMC. Level 1 is limit information system access to authorized users. So basically, only people who are allowed to access things are accessing things. I feel like that one's kind of implicitly in place. Network segmentation. I'm actually going to say, yeah. So there's actually a control SC1175, which says monitor, control, and protect org communications at external boundaries and key internal boundaries. So what I would argue with that is that by putting this firewall in place, this was a key external boundary, but I want to treat all these segments as key internal boundaries as well. Now, we're going to do network segmentation, which maps to this control. But what I would say is that network segmentation is not a very easy thing to do. Okay. It sounds simple because you just drop it in, but you actually have to do a lot of architectural planning to make sure that network data flows aren't impacted, that you're actually putting security in place, that if you're going to use 801.x or 801.x, yeah, that you actually configure it properly. So that's basically like network access control when you stick an Ethernet jack into, when you plug an Ethernet into an Ethernet jack, that the actual, if that device is authorized to be on, if it meets some type of security posture minimum, right? So you can actually, like my computer, I could plug it in today and it works on that jack. And then I plug it in tomorrow and it doesn't work because I'm missing a patch or something like that. That's the level of network access control that you can actually get to. I'm going to stick with the CMMC baseline and say that covers network segmentation. But I would argue if you were going for level 1 compliance or doing self-attestation, you could say that you have a border gateway firewall, which is that external boundary, but the control says that you also put firewalls at key internal boundaries. Well, who defines what key is, right? That's a very subjective term. If you wanted to be lazy and pencil whip it, you could say, oh, we don't have any key internal boundaries. Therefore, we don't need to put a firewall or segment our network, right? So it gets tricky, right, guys? There's a lot of gray area when it comes to being compliant and writing it up or justifying it. I don't think CMMC level 1 is enough either, but again, I'm trying to be honest and I'm trying to make CMMC level 1 the best I can. So like, let's put it this way. I'm kind of operating under the mindset that my CEO and CFO had said, listen, we are going to have to be CMMC level compliant. You get, that's all we're going to do. So for every budget request you make, you need to point to the CMMC level 1 requirement that you're asking for money for, and we will fund it. So as a CISO, I'm trying my hardest to get the best security and the best risk reduction I can with little impact or while adhering to CMMC level 1. So that's what's going on right now. Let us know in chat how the music is from an audio perspective versus our voices. Now, Clint, I'm going to go back and look at CMMC level 1. So if you want to talk for a minute while I look up where we are.
I have nothing to talk about other than how does the music sound? I'm taking requests. This is DJ Clint, also known as DJ Ring Zero. And today we're playing smooth Gerry jazz. It's not the roots, but it's rooted in satisfaction.
All right, so limiting access. That's okay. External connections. Okay. So there's another control in here about external connections. So I think that could be, what I'm trying to do right now is kind of map stuff, right? Hardened RDP is probably going to map to that. So I would do that. Guys, there's so many gaps in this freaking CMMC level 1. There's absolutely no awareness training in CMMC level 1. There's no incident response.
Trash it.
CMMC.
Yeah, throw it away.
There's no level. It's kind of gross.
What's the number one attack vector? Users.
Phishing email. Yeah. There's nothing in here about that at all. I mean, the fact that there's only 17 controls is kind of, I mean, they're kind of rolled up controls, so it's not totally a thing, but like, there's no incident response. Manage physical access. There's a lot around physical access and flaw remediation. Identify, report, and correct information system flaws in a timely manner. So we're actually going to spend a lot of time looking at that. I guarantee you. All right, let me go back to the platform. So what we're going to do is two-factor auth, because there is access controls around it. Strong passwords, because there is a lot of access controls. No security awareness training, no strong Wi-Fi. Hardened RDP is in there. And then we'll start getting into vulnerability assessment and stuff, because flaw remediation is a big thing in the platform. And we'll install electronic locks as well. All right, let's end the turn. Yeah, no security awareness. Exactly, David. It's ridiculous. All right, we got our video surveillance system. Let us do flaw remediation is a big thing, but they have like 3 or 4 different controls for physical access. So I want to stick to that. Okay, so I'm going to do the electronic locks, which I wouldn't normally do, but yeah, CMMC level 1. Yeah, I would think it would. I would almost shoot for CMMC level 2 and then report that you made it to level 1 as a milestone goal, not as the goal. All right. All right, so network segmentation, this also maps to this. Whoa, 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 whoa. Clint, that's really loud.
What? Is it loud for anybody else? It's quiet here.
Oh, it just got super, like now it's pretty low, but you just throttled it up.
I didn't do anything. And I have all my auto levels turned off. Did it do that? Did it spike for anybody else?
Yeah, let us know in chat. Yeah, there's no business continuity stuff either.
No, that's too much. Okay,
File
let me make
scanning.
I don't know what's going on.
All right, so vulnerability scanning's in here. Malicious code. It's still a little loud.
That's weird. I have all auto levels turned off, auto gain turned off, everything. I don't know why.
Yeah, everybody heard it get really loud.
I'm not sure what happened.
All right. So guys, here, I'm going to chalk manage physical access to why I put in the electronic lock. So that looks good. All right, they have electronic logs. All right. Endpoint detection, network security, ICS monitoring. All right. Yeah, I don't really see a lot around like network monitoring. Like they have boundary protection, but that's more of a protection control, not, I guess they say monitor. They do say monitor communications. So we could put in network IDS. Okay, let's see. All right, Purdue model followed. That's good. Network segmented. All right, so now our network segmented. We've got 2 people left. Flaw remediation is a big thing, and harden our RDP is a big thing. I'm not going to do policies and procedures though. I'm going to kind of stick to everything else. So let's do asset inventory, and we'll do network sensors, okay? We'll put it over here. At least we'll implement a risk-based approach to securing our network, okay? All right, let me continue to update my NIST my CMMC. All right. I'm going to do another network. Basically, I'm just implementing network security sensors throughout my environment. Okay. Now, let me look at CMMC. I think, yeah, let's make this a green one. I don't think we'll be able to do physical access logs, maintaining logs. We can't really do that in the simulator.
All right, I'm turning the music out. For some reason, people are still saying the music is going in and out, and I have no clue. Not touching anything, so it's going off.
Okay, no problem.
I don't know, it's weird.
That's all right. Media disposal. I'm looking at the controls now, thinking about the platform. So we have limit access to authorized users and stuff. That's one. Now, as far as the game goes, the simulator, typically you would use like Active Directory and group policy to kind of manage access to resources. Or if you're using cloud-based systems, you can do 2-factor auth to do that, strong password. So maybe we will unlock policies and procedures. But to me, those are really the only 2 that even remotely map into that. So what's our, let me check where we are on our action log here. We are going to free up, I don't know how many resources are working on installing the electronic locks. Let me look really quick. 1 person. So we get 1 person next turn. So we'll continue deploying our network monitoring, which is that monitoring of key internal boundaries. So I guess what it looks like, if you implement CMMC level 1 decently, at least at the network layer, your you're protecting. The funny thing is, and this is a gap in my mind on CMMC level 1, is that it tells you to monitor, so you're aware of when a problem happens, but there's no incident response. I don't see anything around capabilities for handling when you detect a problem on your network. How would a low budget mom and pop be capable of adhering to CMMC level 1? Chad, I got to tell you, I think a mom and pop could actually adhere to level 1. Let me continue the simulation to let you know how it's going. But as you may have gotten here a minute late, Chad, but for the most part, you don't need to do network segmentation to adhere to CMMC level 1. I've done it here because there's a control that says that you control, monitor, and protect the external boundary, which is that main firewall on the far left, you can see, but then key internal boundaries, which is why I did network segmentation. But the problem is, and this is a huge gap or loophole with NIST-based security, you, Chad, get to define whether, like, what is key internal boundaries. They're not trying to be so prescriptive, but the loophole here obviously is that as the CISO, I just say, oh, we don't have any key internal boundaries, problem solved. We don't need to implement network segmentation, right? Whether that's right or wrong, that's one way to skirt around the issue. All right, we've got our electronic locks. We've got our network sensors. I'm going to go ahead and implement do I want to do yeah, I'm going to do network sensors and finish those off. Okay. All right, let's do that. Now, let me look at my audio really quickly, my music. I might be able to put some music on if you want. Let me do
I'm looking at another option too. I just don't know why it was doing that.
Actually, Clint, there's music built into Restream.
Okay, I'll look at it here in just a second.
Yeah, hit the plus symbol underneath in the admin console, and then
I see
I like Future Pop. I mean, I've listened to all of them. I think Future Pop's a good one. Oh, thanks, Barricade Cyber Solutions, for the sponsor. Very nice. I appreciate that. Unless that's coming from that's coming from Simply Cyber's streams. Okay, guys. So as far as CMMC level 1 goes, I've implemented an external boundary firewall. I've implemented network segmentation, and I've been working on putting network sensors up everywhere. CMMC level 1 does not require you to implement the controls in any particular order, which you could argue is a gap. There would be some value to implementers if you gave them an order of efficacy. But you have to remember, here's another thing that a lot of people forget. In the world of DoD and FISMA and federal IT, you're not supposed to put a system in production until you've got all the controls in place and it's been independently validated that it's certified in place. What we're doing is securing the ship, like securing the plane in flight, which really does happen all the time. But it's not the way that the government I usually pull it down to like 10. So we're doing all those boundary protections. Controlling public information, I don't think that we have a way to implement that in the environment. External connections, verify and limit connections to external information systems. We're going to do that with RDP, I believe, here in a minute. And then limit information systems type of transactions to authorized users only. Okay, so we're going to do policies and procedures pretty soon, and we're going to do 2FA and harden RDP to focus on those user access elements of CMMC level 1. All right, so we got all our assets aligned. Did you turn the music off, Clint?
So I turned it on, then it made your audio weird.
Oh, here, let me see if I can change my audio. Hold on.
I added it now.
Let me change. Here, I just turned off auto gain control from my mic. Does that make a difference?
I don't know. Audience, how's this music? I just added it in.
Yeah, audio. So my audio has been crapping out every day on the daily cyber threat briefing. All right, so we've got all three assets available. Let's do our policies and procedures so we can get to tightening up our access control, which that's one thing I will give CMMC Level 1. It does seem to be aligned to zero trust architecture. For what it's worth, zero trust architecture is a protection schema, not a detection schema. So just to point that out, that's a key difference that a lot of people don't understand. Also, zero trust architecture is just rebranding, repackaging of the best practices that we've been talking about for 25 years. Clint, do you have a thought on that? This was like a hot button topic in my chat yesterday. I'll get your thoughts on it.
Sorry, I'm still trying to jack with technical stuff here real quick. What was I missed the question.
So the conversation, so I just made the comment that it, like, just off the cuff here, CMMC Level 1 looks like it's more aligned to zero trust architecture. So there's a lot of influence on controlling access of the end users and controlling the network layer, which to me is aligned to zero trust architecture. Very much looking at protection mechanisms, not detection mechanisms. And then the question for you, which I'll give you a minute to respond, is I think zero trust architecture is just a fancy 2022 way of repackaging and rebranding what the best practices have been for the last 30 years in information security. It's just they've given it a new name. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that zero trust architecture, like a lot of different cybersecurity buzzwords, are just that, buzzwords to what you said, buzzwords to repackage what we're supposed to do anyway, right? So you're always supposed to take a zero trust. I mean, you start with zero trust buzzword, but you start with basically minimal access, needed access only, and then start adding as you need it. You cut access to everything. That's zero trust is just synonymous with cybersecurity. Duh. I mean, same thing, like, purple teaming, right? Purple teaming is just properly done red teaming. Red teaming is supposed to engage the blue team. Duh, in all capacities. So I love marketing and I hate marketing. And that's all it is. It basically, in some aspects, things like zero trust and purple teaming, if it gets people to actually understand how it's supposed to work and it gets people thinking about it in the right way, I'm all for it. However, if this buzzword movement is strictly done from sales and marketing teams just to try to fabricate some sort of differentiator for themselves or something like that, then they can F off. I'm really sick of that's one of the reasons we had yes, I'm grumpy, and we had a conversation this morning, right, Gerry, about, I'm kind of getting sick of certain markets, and it's stuff like this that just makes me sick. That really grinds my gears. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, and on Simply Cyber Thursday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're actually having Dr. Chase Cunningham, aka Dr. Zero Trust. He advises a lot of federal lawmakers up in DC, and I want to talk to him specifically about that same question and get his thoughts on that too. So if that's something that interests y'all, come check it out on Thursday at 4:30 p.m. All right, so you could see here we've got one analyst who's available. We're working on policies and procedures. So let's take a look at what we can do. We are going to do two-factor auth, strong passwords, and harden RDP when we get a chance. But right now, flaw remediation is a big thing in the space. So technically, we need to do a vulnerability assessment to find that. We can't do vulnerability assessment until we do safe testing, because otherwise we might knock over our own device. So this is best practice management. So we're doing the safe testing methodology so we can actually do flaw remediation control of CMMC Level 1. Now, I'm going to look at CMMC Level 1 really quickly and see. I did not see anything in here. Malicious code protection. Provide protection from malicious code. I'm going to say that that's EDR, okay? There's also system and file scanning. Perform periodic scans of the information system and real-time scans as files are downloaded, opened, and executed. Okay, guys, 10 out of 10 times, that is what an EDR is. Endpoint detection and response is essentially a modern version of anti-malware, antivirus, or it's anti-malware, antivirus for corporations. So thankfully, flaw remediation is in here. We do get the detection and response, which level 1 does not account for any of the incident response type activities. So we're kind of screwed there, but let's hope that the EDR helps us prevent and slow people down. Again, level 1 seems very much focused on protection mechanisms, not focused on detection mechanisms or response mechanisms. All right, you can see we're still kind of bunched up here waiting for our things to pass, so we're gonna do this. David E's asking about requesting budget. Budget cost 1 person, 3 turns, so we don't quite need budget yet. We are getting pretty low on funds, though, so it's a good call, David. Thank you. No problem, Roy. If you guys have any questions, just drop them in chat. We're here to answer your questions. We are implementing CMMC Level 1, the foundational level, inside a mid-sized pipeline manufacturing company and hoping for the best. I will say that, again, I have my reservations about its efficacy, but we'll figure it out together. All right, so we got our policies and procedures, which is great. So now we got our 3 assets or our 3 FTEs, and we need to implement these processes. Now, there's a lot of focus and effort around authorized access and all these things. So let's put 2FA in place, and let's put hardened RDP in place, okay? All right, so I'm going to show everybody the CMMC level real quick, okay? Give me a second. Okay, now you can see I've been updating it as we go. There's only 17 kind of control areas to look at. This is the first one, and it's limit information system access to authorized users. This is why I'm doing 2FA. This is why I'm hardening RDP. I see this as a legit control that we're currently working on. Level 2 is transaction, not level 2, control 2. Limit information system access to the type of transaction and functions that are authorized users are permitted to execute. This is more around configuring the systems to only, like, you don't have everyone who can access anything, right? Like only Clint can create new user accounts, or only Gerry can open and close some cyber physical system device, like venting the gas stacks or something like that. So I'm actually gonna move this one to no fill because I don't think we did that yet. External connections, this is more of limiting access. Again, I think that this is really the RDP type stuff. We're hardening RDP. We have a firewall on the outside. So this to me is kind of managing external connections. Now, if they're talking about external information systems, you could argue that the RDP is that way too. Like we want RDP, not RDP, 2FA. If you're implementing any type of cloud-based solution, SaaS solution, Office 365, anything like that, you definitely want to use 2FA. So let's actually take credit for that right now. Where is it?
2FA, MFA.
Yeah, both synonymous. I'm doing yellow right now for controls that we've implemented, but I think we might be able to do more. Red is controls that I don't think we can implement. Limit information system. Okay, so I don't think we can do that one.
So just FYI, I'm not sure if it's going to be available in the upcoming 1.10 or 1.11, but we are implementing GRC/compliance tracking in red versus blue. So as you do things, it'll check off different requirements, and then at the end of the game, it lets you know, or at any point you can check to see your progress. At the end of the game, it'll let you know what part of certain standards you're in compliance with. The infrastructure's there. The difficulty, as you know, Gerry, and you've been part of this, is implementing the standards to track. And I say that for the audience's knowledge, because Gerry, you know, we're doing this, and so it's just a matter of. And what's interesting is that we're finding the same problem with trying to implement a tracking mechanism for compliance with these standards in game is the same problem that operators and companies are having trying to comply with these things. We're finding as we're entering these standards in, we're finding problems and holes with the requirements, with the clarity of the requirements, and we're actually having a lot of problem figuring out what controls meet what requirements of these standards, for the same reason that companies are having problems complying with them, because they're so vague and convoluted and lack of guidance. So we feel your pain, and I've done this for my entire career, so I've felt this pain, but I'm now reliving this pain, and it sucks.
Yeah, it really is. And there's two problems here. One, having the staff to be able to digest and understand what exactly the control or the standard is asking for is a huge. It seems obvious that you just read it and you understand what it is, but there is a knowledge set that is required in order to translate what they're actually saying into something practical that you can implement. And then, of course, the pencil whipping exercise, right? Of like, so Alex, great point. VPN, that would qualify as external connections, right? So we'll implement that. But like, you as an organization could not implement a VPN and have a gateway firewall or have 2FA and say, oh no, we've addressed external network connections because we have 2FA. So there's a lot of gray area as far as what you do to implement, right? Okay, so I've got all of my staff utilized. David E., I just want you to know, I pride myself on maximum staff utilization. That's like one of my all-time underlying guiding principles. So just to let you know, I hope that I keep my staff super busy. Okay, so just so you guys know, we'll be able to install a VPN. We've got some threat intel score going up, which is interesting. Now, let me do this really quickly. Let's see here. Our threat intel score at the top is 1%, so definitely something happening on our network. That's okay. I do want to do a vulnerability assessment soon and start handling my flaw remediation control, as it were, in the environment. Also, ICS security monitoring. This is interesting because this wants us to look at industrial control systems specifically, but there isn't really a control around monitoring endpoints that I saw. It's more around monitoring networks. So I don't get ICS security monitoring with CMMC Level 1.
So yeah, let me explain the difference real quick between ICS security monitoring and enterprise threat monitoring. So a lot of enterprise threat monitoring solutions are incapable of dissecting industrial protocols or recognizing certain industrial devices, embedded devices, PLCs, controllers, and things like that. So ICS security monitoring implements the ability to detect those devices, do ICS asset inventory sort of thing, and included with that platform, but then also the ability to read, dissect industrial protocols and translate the types of threats that are specific to ICS that traditional threat monitoring won't pick up. So for example, there are threats in ICS that are based off of logic, PLC logic, or specific to a process that is not in the same format or context of a traditional cyber threat. So I would say that in reality, an ICS threat monitoring solution combines the capabilities of a traditional threat monitoring platform with a control room operator screen. It combines those capabilities, kind of almost unifies what a control room operator would see as something maybe spinning out of control, and cyber threats. It creates that ability to monitor that cyber threat vector as well as hazards to the process. That's what an ICS threat monitoring solution is supposed to do.
Interesting. So we're wrapping up the turn right now. Spoiler alert, while Clint was talking, I was investigating our CMMC level 1. We're very close to almost completed with implementing it and being compliant, which is kind of gross. We're going to go ahead and install the VPN. Are we out of money? Oh yeah, we need to request budget.
That's why people were telling you to request budget.
All right. Let's request budget. There we go. Sounds like a lot of this can go back to compliance is not security, but a subset. Yeah. This is, yes, exactly, Alex. This is a perfect example of how maximum compliance equals minimum security. And you know what? To be very transparent or comprehensive with chat, CMMC was supposed to be like all of these businesses were supposed to be implementing 800.171 and self-attesting to it. By the way, 800.171 is level 2 CMMC compliance, or will be level 2. So all of the businesses that have been working with the government over the last 6 years, 7 years, should have been attesting that they're level 2 compliant. So level 1, which again is not very much, should already be in place for all these organizations if they were actually implementing 800.171 the way they said it they were. So, okay. Yeah, I agree. So, all right, guys. It looks like I'm down to $500. My screen's kind of clipped, so it's hard for me to see exactly, but I'm requesting budget. I'm going to be, oh, you're welcome, Joe Hudson. Good to see you, Joe. Joe Hudson, if you guys are, let me just tell you who Joe Hudson is. Joe Hudson is hands down the most accomplished, excellent cybersecurity recruiter in the industry. He only recruits cybersecurity professionals for the best cybersecurity jobs. So definitely a guy to connect with on LinkedIn and have a conversation with. I love me some Joe Hudson. He's done a lot for the Simply Cyber community. So great to see Joe. All right, guys, I'm going to start focusing on flaw remediation now that I feel like my my access controls are pretty much firm up at this point. So we're going to focus on that once I get budget from the board. Yeah. Okay, here we go. All right, so we got two-factor auth, we got policies and procedures. Our one guy is putting the deck together, asking for money. So what we're going to do is a vulnerability assessment. Oh no.
Well, Joe, it is recorded. It'll be on the YouTube's, the videos remain on YouTube.
All right, so let me start doing EDR until we get money, okay? So let's focus on our most sensitive assets, which I guess would be the engineering workstation and the controller computer. Oh, crap. What can I do for $0?
There's a few things.
Implement strong Wi-Fi. Let me see if this count. Use stronger Wi-Fi security technology to secure the Wi-Fi router against wireless attacks. Encrypt network traffic. Prevent leaking password. Okay, so there is a control about monitoring and protecting communication channels. So I feel that encrypting network traffic actually meets that requirement. I do not think that strong Wi-Fi does do that, unfortunately.
What a solid standard.
Well, to me, this is about hardening the access point itself, not the network.
It's part of the network.
All right. Well,
it's an entry point to the network.
All right. Yeah, the UI is fun. All right, let's go.
Yay, thank you. I'm the UI designer. Thank you, Joe.
All right, so we're out of money. We have one resource. You said strong Wi-Fi didn't meet that requirement. I know Dave said vendor certs is free. This is going to be so we can do flaw remediation later. So this is actually a big one. Let's do this. David E, I just want to point out, David, that we are so far at 100% utilization rate. So I'm loving that. I'm going to start documenting that our flaw remediation, malicious code protection is in place. System and file scanning. Well, we haven't done that yet. We need budget to do that. We've almost fully implemented CMMC Level 1. Let's go. Yeah, Joe, you should make that your ringtone. All right, budget acquired. Nice job, everybody. We got $40,000. I like that. Okay. Okay, so.
Do you realize your wife is one of those is working on one of those workstations?
Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome. I'm gonna call her in here.
I took a screenshot for you. Hey, Gerald.
Did you? That's awesome. Yeah, she'll be. I'm gonna message her that. Thanks for pointing that out, Clint. All right, guys, I'm really focused on endpoint detection and response right now. Actually, we have to do a vulnerability assessment to figure out where our flaws are. It's $10,000, which is wicked expensive. Again, I want to show everybody the NIST, or excuse me, the CMMC standard that we're using, just so you can see it. This is the CMMC standard. There's 17 controls. The ones in yellow we've basically implemented, but I'm under the impression that it can be, we can continue to do it. This one's really focused on limiting access to devices. We did 2FA, we did network segmentation, we did hardened RDP. Our external network connections are limited. Again, 2FA, we have a gateway firewall. We hardened the DMZ with a VPN. Controlling information posted or processed into public sources. We don't have that. I guess we could say security awareness, but that's not really, that's a control to manage people from doing it, not necessarily from doing it. I don't know. What do you think, Clint? That this is control information posted or processed on publicly accessed information systems.
I don't think that we can do anything with that in game. There's nothing for that. By the way, you know, David E is giving advice here as well as Alex Goodwin. I would say that David E and Alex Goodwin are probably two of the most foremost experts, non-ThreatGEN employee experts on Red versus Blue. They are very active on our Discord server, always coming up with new strategies and posting about their strategies and their adventures in game. I really have not seen anybody outside of Greg, our SQA lead, knows more about the game than these two. So just take their advice.
Definitely appreciate it. The next one, I said we implemented identify information systems or devices. Again, this was really around access control, and we're doing vulnerability assessment as well. So I gave us credit for that. 352, authenticate identities of users and systems. We've done all the access control stuff. Here's another one that I don't think that we actually have ability in game to implement. Sanitize or destroy media before disposal. So this is a best practice. This is a best practice in game. in real life, when you're implementing a program, you don't want to decommission an old computer and throw it in the trash. You want to destroy the hard drive. You don't want to send a machine back to a vendor for maintenance if it's got your company's data on it, right? You want to shred papers that were printed out that have interesting stuff on it. So all these controls. All right. I will continue with, well, real quick, limit physical access. We did that with surveillance and physical 2FA. Escort visitors. We can't really do this one, but monitoring visitor activity, you could kind of say we did that because we're watching for authorized users only to be allowed into the environment. I'm still not going to give us credit for it, but all right, let's end the turn. Does physical 2FA fall under access control? I would argue it does, especially since, Alex, the CMMC Level 1 actually does call out 3 different physical security controls. So I think it would totally map in there. Let's see where we are. We need to start getting on to flaw remediation, mind you. All right, ICS vendor patch is done. We've got 1 person available. Let's start putting EDR in place. Look at all this grossness that we need to do. I think main firewall is a good place to go just because anyone from the internet can hit it. Okay,
Since
here
we have
we go.
people, we've already had a few people in the chat ask. Apparently they're new to the stream and new to Red versus Blue. What you're looking at is ThreatGEN Red versus Blue. It's a game-based cybersecurity simulation, and it is available at ThreatGEN.com. That's the pro version. If you want a quick sneak peek, lower cost trial, it basically what it amounts to, it is on Steam.
All right. So I'm just putting EDR in place now. We're going to have vulnerability assessment here in a minute. P&L is going down. We probably have an infection, but we don't know where it is.
Limitation of the CMMC.
Yeah, again, as far as CMMC goes, the only things I have left to do that I haven't done are flaw remediation, which is identify and correct system flaws in a timely manner, and perform periodic scans of information systems, which I just did with a vulnerability scan. So literally the only thing we have left is to identify and remediate known system flaws, which are all of these things, right? So we're kind of in a hot mess right now because we have a big environment to secure. I mean, I almost feel like, why am I putting EDR on? There was some control that had to do with flaw remediation, identify. Oh, so malicious code protection is another control. Provide protection from malicious code. Exactly, Carl opening his spreadsheet. I'll tell you what. So provide protection from malicious code and flaw remediation. So we're basically at like a race condition now where we need to do EDR everywhere and we need to remediate everything. And we just don't have a lot of people to work on it, frankly. And our P&L is going down. So I guess I'm going to put EDR on this. Honestly, I'll tell you what, guys, I'm a little concerned as the CISO because I have such a wide attack surface and very little resources to secure it. Like, it's going to take me a while to even put EDR on all these things, let alone patch anything. So, yeah. Let me take a quick screenshot.
Your attack surface needs a wide load placard.
It really does. Let me. I gotta take a screenshot of this for my wife here.
I already took it. I got it for you.
Yeah, I know, but I messaged it to her. I texted it to her.
Oh.
Okay. So guys, let's just end the turn. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think it's more important to do EDR and know that you're compromised, or is it better to patch your stuff? You know, philosophical question. All right, I've got to patch the crap out of some stuff here. I'm going to keep putting EDR on though. Because to me,
according
there's
to
no
last
point.
Wednesday, sorry to interrupt, but according to last Wednesday, I can tell you what Eric Taylor's answer would be.
Mm-hmm. Change default creds. Here, let's I'm going to focus my EDR on workstations and servers, okay? All right, David seems to think it's exfil on a workstation. All right, so let's do AD EDR, our SIM EDR, and our file server EDR. In fact, normally I would say, let's get rid of that. Email servers are so vitally important.
Here's expert advice from one of our foremost experts.
Yeah. And how do I say this? Milola, she's weighing in that EDR is important, and then kind of focus on where to patch one by one. So great approach. Yeah, in a perfect world, we would do both, but there's only so much time, so many resources, so much manpower, person power. So we got to prioritize. All right, let's end the turn. All right, let's see. Let's keep doing EDR.
Just FYI, in the next update, 1.10, you will see workstations being named with Carl.
Oh, really? Oh, Carl made it.
Yeah, we decided to put Carl in, so Carl will be there.
All right. So Ryan is weighing into request budget and then hire new staff. $45,000. Ryan, I hear you, but in the context of this game, I'm so reluctant to hire new staff. Just like in real life, like it's so much budget that it's really difficult. Like I requested budget and I only got 40,000 last time, not even enough to cover a full FTE. So I'm kind of concerned about it.
Gerry is hypersensitive to his resource utilization rate.
Yeah. Also, so I just put EDR on N. Auger's workstation. See what she's up to. No, you're all good, Carrie. I appreciate you all joining us. We're playing ThreatGEN Red versus Blue while we're implementing the CMMC Level 1. It looks like our server firewall. Now, Clint, what is...
Oh, I had a feeling it was her workstation that was providing the P&L loss.
That is something. Oh my God, I'm gonna...
Okay,
This is a pipeline.
Screenshot in this one.
I gotta take a screenshot too.
I got you covered.
Yeah, she's gonna love this.
She's the culprit.
You were compromised. Okay, so here's the deal. Clint, can you just explain from a game perspective? This is clearly an owned asset. So Nadine, N. Auger's machine is owned. What is this firewall all about?
Just
what is this red?
Wife. Yeah, so as you know, the green pulsating or radiating targets mean that's a target you can select to do something to, like EDR or something like that. The red radiating target means that particular asset has been targeted by an attack, it does not necessarily mean it is actively compromised. You can only tell that by doing threat hunting or putting EDR on it. That just means that the network IDS has detected an attack targeting that asset.
Okay. So that's the value of the IDS, you said, basically?
Yes.
Okay, so here's the thing. Here's my methodology. This is the thing. So I'm actually going to patch this, which is flaw remediation, and install EDR, which is malicious code protection. So that's addressing this. I'm not touching this system yet, okay? Even though it's compromised, I'm not bleeding out that much. I'm not too worried about it. I'm going to take care of it next turn.
Get that forensics evidence.
Yep. Oh my God. I sent, hold on, chat, you're going to love this. So if you're here for this, you'll love this. My wife is so sharp. I sent her a picture of this screenshot, okay? That host name that's owned right there, you may recognize the last name is the same as mine. This is my wife represented on the platform, or on, in the game. I messaged her and said, "You were compromised," and she said, "Yes, I know. I married you."
Oh,
so, total burn. Okay, so let's harden this baby. Let's install AV, and we'll clean this up afterwards. What is this? Does this mean it's compromised now, Clint?
Yes, it is now compromised because it's red with a skull.
Okay, so I'm gonna harden this, AV this, and install EDR one more place, and then I'm gonna activate IR. Okay. Meanwhile, I'm going to. Where is my EDR here? I'm gonna put EDR on my last workstation. There we go.
Barricade says,
yes,
the skull equals death.
She is a very smart woman. AV rolled out, loiter removed from perimeter. All right, so our threat intel is probably going up. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so let's activate IR now and take care of all this crap. So we're going to activate IR. We can do a couple quick little wins here. So so the threat actor is somewhere in this area. So I want to start patching these things.
So that probably got hit with some sort of campaign or spear phishing directly in that zone, and then compromise the firewall. You can probably expect lateral movement to start moving into your DMZ towards the control room. I think that the AI prefers moving towards the control systems rather than moving into the server zone and start taking out Active Directory and things like that. I think we've been modifying the AI quite a bit here and there, just different preferences and things.
All right, well, we'll give it a shot. I do want to point out that we have pretty much fully implemented. Well, I guess I could install a VPN, but we've pretty much fully implemented CMMC Level 1. There's really nothing about backups, continuity planning, incident response, risk management, security awareness. All of those are not present in CMMC Level 1, which is a huge gap. All right. Yeah, I'm acting like a CISO who has all. I'm acting like a CISO who has all the best intentions, but is hamstrung by management that I'm only allowed to get funding for CMMC Level 1. All right, so IR mode activated.
Oh,
we've got a couple. This is okay. This is okay. I'm maximizing my IR. Okay. So I can't gather forensics because there literally isn't. I'm going to say I don't have any staff, or it's not a thing for me to want to do that. So I'm going to clean the asset. I'm going to clean all 3 of these assets, okay? Let's go. Those will take 2 turns.
The answer is you can't quarantine. I mean, the answer is yes. You can quarantine the zone by disconnecting either the switch or that firewall from the network. If you disconnect that firewall, you're going to quarantine 3 zones, but you can disconnect the switch to quarantine that zone.
Yeah, I know forensics would have helped, but CMMC level 1 be damned. So this is going to finish next turn. This is just a workflow thing. I've deactivated IR, or I've requested to deactivate IR, expecting my assets to be clean and to get back to flaw remediation on my next turn.
You know, you would have to think that if you're just following the CMMC true and pure, forensics, you're gathering forensics evidence would not be part of that. That you're kind of flowing outside of the goal of this exercise, which is to prove the efficacy or not of the CMMC just on the basis and the merit of the CMMC itself. So grabbing forensics evidence is outside of that.
Exactly. So, you know, another area to concern yourself with. So I'm focused on really just adding EDR to workstations right now. So this will be the last one. And then I want to start doing flaw remediation on my network devices, like my firewalls and such.
The other thing, to your point about, you know, you weren't too concerned about those workstations on your P&L because they weren't starting to, you know, bring you down too much. Just FYI to everyone also that currently plays the game, all of the P&L values for all the assets are still flat across the board comparatively. I am currently working on adjusting the P&L values for each asset according to real life proportion. And so when 110 releases, you'll see that whenever those workstations in that user zone have been compromised or, you know, exfiltrating data or ransomware or whatever, the P&L for lower value assets will go down slower than higher value. So just know that you were right in that the workstations normally would be of less consequence there unless they were specific to something like your, I don't know, your accounting systems or something.
Okay. So we have a flaw on this main firewall, but there's no patch available. So that happens, right? Like, you know, like Felina, just recently, the Felina bug from Microsoft, there was no patch available for a few weeks. So this actually happens in real life. Just looking at my EDR to see if I've got all of my endpoints, my actual non-network devices controlled. You can put EDR on IDSs and stuff like that, but I'm not going to. I'm more interested in now hardening my attack surface. So this machine was already compromised. All these machines, so everything in here was compromised. So I'm interested in securing these things. Here we go, system patches. And then moving over here, put patches on that, and then AV on this. Yeah, exactly, Alfredo. Thank you. But for that brief window, there was only a workaround, right? All right, here we go. We got our 3 assets. I'm going to start hardening from the industrial control system outward. And this is aligning to CMMC level 1 control, which is flaw remediation, which we're doing. And just so everybody knows, we have fully implemented CMMC level 1 right now. So we're going to keep going, but asset out of service and loiter removed from parking lot. So they're definitely trying to get physical access to our system. Holy crap, that's not good. Now, I think I just patched this, maybe. Yes, so Clint, I patched this device and I think I may have knocked it over.
Yeah, because you patched an ICS device without getting vendor approval or certification first.
Oh, so that's a temporal thing. I actually did vendor
Yeah.
certification before, but didn't patch it. So note to self: don't do vendor certification until you're ready to do it. So let me reboot that asset, which totally sucks, and let me keep working at patching these things. All right, let's upgrade firmware and system patches. Actually, let's do AV on the engineer workstation. Full asset update, very good. How long does it take for this thing to come back online? Oh, the reboot failed? Oh, crap. Ooh, this isn't good. My engineer workstation.
Oh, that could be death.
All right, so let's... Crap balls. Okay,
you need to
so
take that thing offline immediately. Like, don't worry, don't try to clean it. You just take it offline.
I'm activating IR. And then I'm going to try to do things that take one turn.
So I have a question for the audience and everybody. Should you have to activate IR to disconnect something from the network? Keeping in mind, for training purposes, for the simulation purposes, we have established that, I knew it. You have established certain things. Let me ask this question first. We have established that certain actions require a declaration of being an active IR before you can take those actions. Should disconnecting be part of that? I'll take your votes in the comments. Now I'll let Gerry wallow.
Okay, so as I expected, CMMC Level 1 resulted in us getting totally pwned. Okay, now I do feel like I did implement this as best I could. Oh Jesus! Thank you, Eric. I'll take that as a criticism of CMMC Level 1, not of me as a CISO. What's interesting is it does have flaw remediation, but what did he have? Okay, so had a pretty good look and feel for the entire environment.
Oof, man.
Had this. Oh, so threat actor saw when I knocked this over. What does it yellow mean, Clint? That they physically are there? No, they were remote. What does the yellow mean?
Means that they have proxy control by way of the engineering workstation.
Oh, I see. Okay. So, what I
was looking to see. Go back. I was looking to see how they got access to the engineering workstation because it doesn't look like they traversed through all the zones. Go to the action queue. Go to Red Team's action queue. Keep going down. Right there. Boom. Spearfish.
So they successfully spearfished the engineer workstation.
Apparently, it was connected to email. They had email on there. Speaking of Greg and Aaron, if you're listening, we should consider some sort of isolation of the ICS so that, like things like removing enterprise applications from things like the engineering workstation. That is actually an ICS hardening method to make sure that your ICS doesn't have internet access. Make sure there's no enterprise applications on your ICS like email and browsers and things like that. That's something we need to consider and throw it on the roadmap.
Dude, this threat actor tried to install ransomware on N. Augier's workstation like 5 times. All right, so I was pretty lucky just because the threat actor wasn't hitting successfully. But a couple things to point out here, and again, I'm going to trash CMMC Level 1. They don't have any security awareness training in any capacity in the required controls. I believe strongly that security awareness is one of the top 3 controls that you can implement in your organization that has the most risk reduction. So for risk reduction, it's a very easy control to implement. And because it's not required for Level 1, this engineer, Carl, didn't receive phishing awareness training, and frankly didn't get educated on not using the engineering workstation to stream World Cup soccer while they're on break. It's like Homer Simpson sitting at the controls here. So because of that lack of awareness and lack of knowledge, Carl, engineer, fell for a phish, got compromised, and immediately the threat actor was able to blow up the ICS process. So even though I have network segmentation here, this engineering workstation just blows right through all this crap and goes right here to detonating these systems. So sad but true. All right, I will tell you this. Here is the long and short of it. We successfully implemented CMMC Level 1 today inside a mid-sized pipeline manufacturing or a pipeline refinery type business. The framework failed to protect the organization. Now, I will say that even Fortune 5 companies can fall for a spear phish. Business email compromise is kind of an impact of a spear phish attack, and it happens all the time, even to big companies. So CMMC Level 3 may have still fell victim to this particular attack, but it's my disposition that CMMC Level 1 is not very good at protecting an organization at all, and for the reasons that we saw. I will give them credit for flaw remediation and for EDR solutions, even though they don't say EDR. They do put a lot of emphasis on physical security controls, which I find surprising, frankly. And then they put a lot of emphasis on access control and network layout. So very, it's like zero trust architecture light is what I would say CMMC Level 1 is at best. All right, so now I'll look at chat after I'm done flipping out here. What do we got here? Is it possible that it's not in there because they figure that it's already being done? I don't know, James. I would disagree. I don't think that they already think it's being done because it's a standard, right? You have to define it, and the fact that there's an entire control family in NIST 853, the awareness training family that covers all these things, and you know what I just thought of? So this is interesting. So CMMC compliance, because I just did a guest interview with Dana Matilla channel, talking about the daily cyber threat briefing I do every morning and how it maps to CMMC. And there actually is controls. I think it's in Level 2 though and higher, where awareness training is not just for end users, but specialized training for information security staff and specialized training for IT, specialized training for management, so that they all understand what their role is and how to secure their role within the context of operating the business in a secure way. So, I guess if I could, submit a letter in the comment box for CMMC, I would say make Level 1 include awareness training, because I just think it's too important to exclude.
Yeah. Yep. It's the number one attack vector. So.
Absolutely. All right, guys.
In conclusion, remember that standards compliance does not equal security. It is simply a baseline guidance to start to give you guidance to start to understand.
Holy crap.
What is happening?
Sorry. No. I started to type in
I went into the ethereal plane and I couldn't feel or see anything. It was so peaceful. Can you do it again? Anyway,
I guess I just want everybody to know that I just found out what the shortcut hotkeys are, because I started to type something into it.
Stop pushing my buttons, Gerry.
Okay. Please continue.
Yeah.
Start over.
Yeah. No. So the bottom line is that standards are there to at least provide a checklist or a framework for a baseline, something to start with. But what you have to understand is that just complying with the standards alone does not make you compliant. it makes you compliant with that standard, but it doesn't make you secure. Number two, because most of them are so vague and broad without specific guidance, which is done on purpose, they're very difficult to even comply with in many cases. And then finally, you have to understand that a lot of these standards, like we saw today, are missing key elements. So they're not the end all be all. In fact, I hate compliance for that reason, because too many people check the boxes and say, we're done, we're good. And then you also have governments that want to enforce compliance with those standards that enable that behavior. So just remember, you need a framework, a checklist. You need something. Like me. I go to the grocery store. I forget the stuff that my wife tells me to get unless I have a checklist, But when you're there, you still realize, crap, I also need dog food. I have a dog. I need dog food. And the checklist didn't tell me to get dog food. But if you don't get dog food, your dog starves. So, just remember, the moral of the story is you don't want to kill your dog. So don't rely on compliance.
quite an extrapolation there on the morals. But yeah, absolutely. This is why if you've never heard the term maximum compliance equals minimum security, or compliance is not equal to security, today's show was a direct study explaining why that's the case. And to Clint's point, yeah, the standard is a great place to start, but you shouldn't be striving to get the standard. You should be striving to use the standard as part of your overall cybersecurity program and risk reduction methodology. So it's fine. Like I said, if you're a practitioner, or if you even hear that your business may be in scope for CMMC, I would beg you to try to get CMMC Level 2. You can spin it a couple different ways. You could tell your leadership, hey, if we're doing Level 2, not only are we more secure, but actually if we move up and have to compete for a Level 2 contract, will already be in place for that. We can demonstrate compliance and competency, etc. Alex asks, is a benefit of frameworks in general simply helping people map their ignorance? Yes. No, I mean, frameworks are good because, people like Clint and I, we've been around for like a million years. So like we've seen all these different things, and we've started to see patterns in these type of things. And some of it just becomes intuitive. But if you're an IT manager and here's a perfect example. I know a guy who is the CIO of a county in South Carolina. He doesn't have deep pockets and a big staff and everything else to do with. He needs to implement some level of security, though, on his systems and his environment. So what does he do? He'll go to something like CMMC or NIST-CSF or CIS without any context on how to evaluate whether or not this control versus this control adds greater risk reduction. But at least it's something. It's a framework. It's like something for them to use. And that's a great start. But then obviously as they get into it, they can start to join shows like this or consult with people like Clint or I, where you can begin to weigh different controls for your given situation and start to prioritize them. And that's really where the comprehension and understanding comes from, right? You can look at 18 controls in CIS 18 and be like, okay, they're all important. But like pen testing in your environment is the last control. There's a reason it's the last control. It adds a lot of value, but you shouldn't start with pen testing because there's fundamental building blocks that you really need to put in place first before you pen test. And that's just a fact, right? So that's what I would say about frameworks. They have a place. They're a good start. I feel like frameworks suffer mostly because they're trying to serve so many different audiences that they have to be diluted and watered down in order to be applicable and add value, regardless of what your environment looks like, how big your company is, revenue or headcount. So that's the problem with frameworks. And that's frankly why I love NIST cybersecurity framework, because I think that they actually attacked it from the model of how an information security program operates, instead of trying to come from the other direction where they're just looking at an organization and hardening it regardless. So that's all I'll say about that.
I think that I'm gonna say something. If you know, you know. Master Ken would say cybersecurity standards are
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this week's episode. I will tell everybody we do the ThreatGEN Red versus Blue live stream every Wednesday at 11:30 a.m. I flip-flop between blue and red since I was blue this week implementing CMMC Level 1. I am excited to tell you all that next week I will be a threat actor, and I will be executing under the context of Sandworm, the very effective advanced persistent threat out of Russia. It's basically Russia's A team, their pro team, their Premier League team. We're going to be using the TTPs from MITRE ATT&CK framework in order to make sure that I adhere strictly to Sandworm's techniques, but they are a nasty bit of business. I have a feeling that most of the arsenal is going to be made available to me, and it's more about executing on what their objectives are, whether it's ransomware. I think Sandworm's big thing is wiper. Like they did NotPetya and wiper malware. So I'll be looking to do massive disruption to whoever the victim organization is that I get teamed up against next week. So if you're interested in seeing me emulate Sandworm and kick the crap out of some organization, then definitely come back next week. Hit the subscribe button. Not for the numbers, but just so if you forget, it'll pop up. I think you might have to hit the bell for notifications, but it'll pop up and tell you that we're live. And that way you won't miss when we're doing the Sandworm attack. All right. It is spicy, China. I love it. All right, guys, that's going to do it. Clint, any final thoughts before we send everybody off for the day?
I think I've already given my final thoughts.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody. We appreciate you being with us today. I hope you enjoyed the simulation. I certainly did. And we will see you next week at 11:30 a.m. for the next ThreatGEN Red versus Blue Let's Play. Be good, everybody.
Or be good at it.